Yes, the restart worked. Yes. All right, we're going to have a good time tonight. It's Friday night. Got PD. And I've got some video. I've got the complaints, both Blake Lively's legal complaint against Justin Baldoni and Wayfair, actually, against Wayfair, and Justin Baldoni's cross complaint against Blake Lively, her husband, Ryan Reynolds, and the crazy accusations and then the counterpoints to the accusations. So what's really going on? Is this a Johnny Depp, Amber Heard vibe sort of situation where, yes, she made false accusations, but he also was clever and hired someone to bury her? Is that what's going on? But let's start with a little clip. Let's start with the clip. There's a setup, you guys, of Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni dancing. This clip is supposed to be kind of a montage afterward where nobody's talking, but they're just sort of like dancing and falling in love, right? So she alleges things happened here that were inappropriate and that he broke character. I'm going to let you guys watch a video, and then I am going to read to you the claims and the counterclaims, and you tell me what you think. But this is a kind of a, I don't know, we can keep going. We can do a reaction through the video, or we can go straight to that. I don't know. We'll see. So that's the one I had teed up before. We'll go back. Welcome, guys. Got a full room.
Legal feud between It Ends With
Okay, here's the video.
one another. They were out of character during some of those intimate moments. Take a look.
We don't shut up.
And Emily and I have we have these moments where
staring. You just stare.
Literally we've done it for like 5 minutes. it's like, I think you would find it terrifying. We just literally look at each other and like
time. I'm a sociopath.
And time stops.
Yeah.
But like that's just how it's been for us from the beginning.
No, we're like
So you can hear that they're joking about how they're just like staring into each other's eyes for 5 minutes and oh, how awkward. And she says, I really think we should be talking, because it's awkward to just stand here and stare at each other's eyes, right? And then make some jokes about each other's partners. That's what I hear so far, and we're going to keep going.
And they score again.
Again. Like, oh my God, I forgot to tell you something else.
I think that's cute. You guys are really cute.
I think it's more than cute.
All right, so after the release of this video, Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, are now seeking a protective order against Baldoni's attorney for what they call retaliatory media campaign they say has been going on against them. So,
yikes. So one might say that's, I'm going to take this off the screen. Hang on. So one's first reaction, like mine, might be, that's crazy. If he was doing this to her and now smearing her, like she says, like, that's not okay. Like we should assume to a certain point that there's some credibility and then look at the facts, right? Okay. So she alleged there that he was making, that at one point he, I think, drew his tongue along her jawline and made unwanted contact. Well, this is a very visual scene, and they're supposed to be falling in love. So I feel like we're kind of reliving the whole Alec Baldwin thing. Is it an actor taking an action? Are they just, and if she was uncomfortable on the set, does she need to tell him she's uncomfortable? Is it enough to feel uncomfortable on the inside, right? Well, I talked with a Los Angeles-based employment law lawyer, a really good friend. And unfortunately, I haven't edited the audio to put it up tonight. It had some noise in it and things like that. And I asked her about this case, the claims in this case. And really funny story for you guys. Really good friend, and we happened to be in an office building where she had like wrenched her back and was in a kind of an awkward position. I was like trying to help with a heat patch and stuff like that. And we both just started laughing hysterically about it and said, like, this is a workplace, but this is not appropriate. I mean, this is not inappropriate because we're also friends, and we would do this outside the workplace, and we would go, this is something that we do, right? So to change that, basically, one of us would have to say, you know what, this makes me uncomfortable. So this is what it comes down to in this claim is, does acting comfortable at one point mean she didn't later tell him she was uncomfortable? Because remember, we have about, I don't know, 1% of their entire 2-year acting relationship on camera and on text and things like that. And the rest of it was in person. So I don't know. What we do have is kind of clear, refutable evidence against a couple very specific claims she made. We're going to, I think that further in the video, if we kept going, she kind of leans in for a kiss a little more, and notice that he leans away and he says, well, we're not going to give it to him yet. They want it, but we're not going to give it to him yet. Right. So there's some anticipation that's trying to build, and she seems to be, according to him, trying to control the scene. And when it comes down to a power struggle, as he represents the situation, she started throwing basically what, as my friend, the attorney, and many attorneys call the very technical, as she put it, kitchen sink approach. And, I added on, of course, plus the pipe, where you just go and bash them on the head with the pipe after throwing the kitchen sink at them, right? Like something, whatever you got, just throw it. But the evidence came out, the texts came out, that while they're still working on the scene, a lot of people kind of didn't know what was going on. And then this complaint came out, which was a public complaint. And then the staff and everybody was talking about it. And then Justin Baldoni hired a PR firm. And I get the sense that there's a lot of inner politics going on here. So Justin Baldoni hired a PR firm. And one of the people who was doing the texting ended up leaking somehow their texts, where they're talking about, quote, burying Blake Lively and how they can bury anyone. So it's a really interesting sort of back and forth where we're not seeing what happened as much as we're seeing how the parties come and represent a potential line of events that likely isn't real on either side. So are you on Team Blake? Are you on Team Justin? Okay, so here's another complaint. Look, guys, the complaint is over 100 pages. So that's why I'm not going to read it to you. But I did skim it, and I read the causes of action. I'll later share with you the interview with the attorney who went over it with me. Shout out to Amanda. Thank you, Amanda. So the other one is that he came into her dressing room or trailer, whatever it is, uninvited, just basically barged in while she was topless. Okay. That sounds bad, right? Sounds bad. Let's ask a couple questions. Let's look at the facts. In his answer, he gives us an actual text message. An actual text message that says, yeah, come on in. We can go over it if you want. I'm just nursing. As long as you don't mind, I don't mind, basically. That kind of shows how this kernel of truth can be mischaracterized, right? So both of them are entirely Machiavellian and manipulative, in my opinion, if you haven't gotten that idea by now. All right, so let's go on with the reaction video on this because it's 100 pages. They already summarized it. So I want to let them do it and continue sharing my perspective because, you know, some of the interviews, it's interesting. I started watching them and just stopped. I was like, let's go live. Let's do this reaction live. But, you know, some of the attorneys that they interview have an absolute opposite perspective of others that I know and would do things completely opposite. So it's just really interesting. These guys that they talk to on this Law and Crime. Love it. Shout out again. So
This morning, we're asking, after you watch the video, who do you think it helps, Lively or Baldoni? Let's bring in our power panel now. Still with me, attorneys John Phillips and Michael J. Brown. I want to welcome in entertainment reporter Kinsey Schofield. Good morning to you all. Kinsey,
So what we're going to get from this, 4 attorneys, none of them telling us what actually happened, right? But just giving us 4 perspectives on how one could spin this in the courtroom. I can tell you that right now. And they've all got their power moves and their diplomas behind them and their, you know, their suits on. But they're all going to tell you a slice, a version of how this story could be told with the facts on that we have. Okay.
Let me start with you, please. Who does this help?
I don't like either one of them after all of this.
Right, both. So Baldoni's team released this because they say it refutes the claim that he was breaking character inappropriately talking to her. Because she's clearly, I mean, right there, am I crazy? She's clearly saying, I feel like we should talk. This is weird, just staring at each other. And then they're talking about each other's partners. But there is a definite chemistry on camera. So what's going to come up later is the Ryan Reynolds aspect. The fact that he's named in the complaint against, well, he's a co-defendant, you know? So what's going on there? And don't forget, where did Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively meet? On the set of Green Lantern. And both of them were married at the time. So is there some jealousy aspect going on? A lot of people are saying that. A lot of people have that question. Let's keep going.
Overwhelmed with all of this negativity. The movie was so beautiful and it had such an incredible message about, you know, taking care of yourself and loving yourself. And, you know, I feel like this has really muddied the beautiful message. I don't know if you know this, but the author of the book recently deleting her Instagram account, some of their other co-stars being harassed based on whose side. It's become such a toxic headline that I don't know if this benefits anyone, truly. I think it's a PR nightmare for both parties.
That's a really good point. Kinsey, I'm so glad you said that. And I think a lot of our courties share your sentiments. A lot of people are just going, okay, this is nauseating, this back and forth. And then you watch it and then it's kind of... Doesn't
it just give you Depp Heard vibes just a little bit? Enough to make you go, think something about this. About the claims on their face being easily refutable. However, again, we're talking about 2 seasoned professional actors. So, Team Tortellini. Oh, fudge, yeah. I'm so hungry right now. Can you send me some tortellini? That would be awesome. Parading Panda, welcome. So happy you're here. Hey, guys, like and subscribe. This is where we break down stuff late at night after dark when I can't sleep and get kind of hyper with my bird. All right, here we go.
Underwhelming is the word. Oh, I don't know. You know, you're expecting to see, you know, something horrible happen and not really. So what do these 2 need to do? Go have a seat somewhere, you know, separate from one another? John Phillips, let me go to you next. Who do you think the video helps?
I agree. It kind of helps and hurts both of them. But the bigger issue and what Blake Lively's counsel is making is, look, stop trying it in the media. One thing I've said on TV interviews and in court and meeting with clients is justice is spelled one way, but it's defined many different ways. And I'll ask the client, you know, how's it defined to you? But it's criminal cases, it's civil cases, and it's the court of public opinion. But once we have a civil case and a criminal case in some instances, but a civil case, you got to shut up. because there's ethical rules that say you can't do or say anything that could potentially affect a jury, and when it's this big, people are leaning forward and listening, and so if one side is trying the case in the media more than the other, it's a problem. And so, you know, this video coming out with the spin around it is kind of the source of the cease and desist and controversy.
Isn't it true? Okay, if I didn't tell you that before, after the video came out, Blake Lively's team issued a cease and desist letter to Justin Baldoni. If y'all want to see it and you want to go through it, put it in the comments, put it here. I have it and go through it. The complaints are super, super long, so we've been going through highlights just like all these guys, because the complaint is like, I don't know. I just feel like lack of any, like, where's the there?
Appreciate that, John. Yeah, great points. You know, ethically, there are rules that lawyers have to follow. They don't always follow them, but really appreciate that. That's important to keep in mind as this one progresses, and apparently these two sides keep going at each other. Michael J. Brown, last but not least, want to get your thoughts on the video and who you think it helps.
Julia, I'm just going to follow up on John's point. It's a great point. Cases are tried in the courtroom. They're not tried in the court of public opinion. And what happens often is,
but what happens is lawyers use public opinion as a test run for their juries. That's why a jury is supposed to be a group of peers. However, there's a set of rules that govern what gets in and what gets out, and how the fairness of each side. So that kind of makes sense. But everybody cares, you know, the likability of their client.
the prosecutor and/or in a civil case, the plaintiff's attorney, they file the summons and complaint, they file the criminal charges, the indictment, and then they hold press conferences and they speak to the press and the media about what it is that they're claiming happened. So, you know, you can throw the stone and then they run the other way and they don't want.
And a lot of this, by the way, when you go and run to the media, it's to push the other side to settle. It's to push the other side to back off. It's not necessarily just for the sake of trying the case in the media. So, I mean, I think that he's kind of forgetting.
The defense side to defend their client. So it's a fine line.
Welcome, guys.
The defense has an absolute right to defend their client, and they're simply trying in a lot of cases to level the playing field. But as John indicated, and as you indicated, Julie, yes, there are ethical constraints, and you certainly don't want to cross that line. But at the end of the day, what's most important is to get people in that courtroom who are fair and impartial, are not familiar with the case, and can render a verdict free of all of that media stuff, so to speak.
Right. Excellent points.
Exactly. So a point a lot of people have been making here is that in the lead up to the litigation, Blake Lively had a lot of ideas. She was bringing creative ideas. They worked on this for 2 years. And the very, nutshell background is that the movie was produced from a book. The book was a phenomenon. It's called It Ends With Us. It's about, domestic issues and awareness and things like that. And Justin Baldoni personally went to the author and he got the rights to produce the film. He then produced, directed, and starred in the film and hired Blake Lively to be an actress, not anything else. But she invested herself as multiple roles, because it was a small production, and it's just, I understand how people end up acting a role that you're not officially in and you want acknowledgement, right? But there are times, it seems, where she or seemingly Ryan Reynolds, her husband, maybe Taylor Swift getting dragged into all this, getting a few mentions, a couple call outs about this because they are good friends, and it literally, she's named in the cross complaint, right? What's Taylor Swift got to do with this? We'll get into it later. It's so complicated, but back to the nutshell. It became basically, according to Justin Baldoni, it was a battle of egos. And ultimately, one could argue Blake Lively won because the author sided with Blake Lively. And essentially, I'm smiling because it's like it's awkward. Justin Baldoni and his entire family were banished from the opening, and they were sent to the basement. Literally, they were in the basement. So, when he sues for emotional harm, intentional and non-intentional, the pictures kind of say 1,000 words, and I'll look up those pictures. It's Lively over here like glam, and Baldoni and his family like, we're in the basement, yay. And it's kind of like, what the hell? And you get this mean girl vibe. You do. I'm just gonna say it. You do. I'm gonna look those up while you listen to him.
From you all, Michael, thank you for that. So we'll leave it here for now. I'm sure we'll be talking about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni in this feud when we see the next motion drop.
All right, so cool. There's another one that I'm gonna show you. Share screen. Oh, I just realized it's somewhere else. Let me move it. I'm back to amateur because it's been a while since I've done this. Forgive me. Getting started again is a little bit like rocky, but it's really fun. I'm so glad to be here with you guys. It's fun. And by the way, I freaking love Taylor Swift. So I'm not, not saying anything about her. Okay, present. In fact, she's often on these intro to my videos and stuff like that, just in some of her songs. Okay, here we go. This one's
Baldoni, Blake Lively legal saga continues, and after we've already broken down the complaints and the responses, right now we are going to break down the actual legal claims, the legal challenges, and what they will need in order to prove their arguments. And I'm going to do it all with acclaimed attorney Brian McMonagle. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
I love Jesse Weber. I love doing reactions to Jesse Weber.
The drama between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni.
Come on, it's like he's easy to look at while we do it. No, but really, he does break down the legal factors really, really well.
Has now escalated into a full-blown legal battle, with both stars suing each other over a tangled web of claims that revolve around their collaboration on the 2024 film It Ends With Us. Lively, known for her roles in Gossip Girl and A Simple Favor, claims that Baldoni, the film's director, tried to destroy her career through a smear campaign after she brought forth allegations of sexual harassment and a hostile work environment against him. On the flip side, Baldoni says Lively went too far by exerting control over the production, threatening to withhold promotion unless her demands were met. He also argues that she falsely portrayed their professional relationship to the public, tarnishing his reputation. And while Lively is suing Baldoni for sexual harassment, retaliation, and false slight invasion of privacy, among other claims, Baldoni is countering with a defamation and civil extortion lawsuit, claiming that Lively not only made false allegations against him, but weaponized them to force him into complying with her demands. So what we want to do right now is do a breakdown of the claims that are being asserted by each party, examine the legal challenges
this is exactly
that they
what
may
I wanted.
face. And this is where I'm going to bring on a special guest, friend of the show, acclaimed criminal defense and civil law attorney Brian McMonagle of the firm McMonagle, Perry, McHugh, Meshach, and Davis. Thank you so much for coming on. Listen, we're talking about something that's not Diddy related for once, so happy to have you on. First, I have
That's
to
exactly
ask
what I
you,
was thinking.
what do you make of Baldoni's team's strategy, specifically Brian Friedman, his lawyer, of allowing so much of this to play outside of court? You know, he's making the rounds on TV, releasing footage from the set. There's even talk about creating a website that will include all of the footage from the set, all of the communications. You know, fighting this out in the court of public opinion arguably may be just as important as fighting this out in the court of law. First, your take on that strategy.
Brilliant, beyond brilliant, quite frankly. From the complaint itself, which reads like a tabloid, where they tagged into this complaint all of the text, all of the photos, all of the dirty laundry, for lack of a better description, before they even charged count one in the complaint. It went on for 100 pages, to what they then followed up with, which is this public campaign to answer, to retort to really turn the tables on the original complaint that was brought against them. And I
She
quite
does it
frankly
beautiful.
thought and think it's a brilliant strategy. And you can tell by some of the public reaction that it has worked, that it is resonating with a lot of people who are paying attention to this stuff. So A+ for the way this case has been defended so far.
Hey, by the way, I want to quickly thank Upside for sponsoring this episode of Sidebar. They help us to keep on bringing these updates in the Baldoni Lively story. So Upside's a free app that gets you cash back on daily essentials like gas, groceries, food. I pump my gas, I can use Upside. I go out to lunch at, let's say, Chipotle, I can use Upside. Perhaps some gum or Tic Tacs at 7-Eleven, I can use Upside. So why not get cash back when I do all these things? And yes, this is actual real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you transfer right into your bank account. So once you have the free Upside app, you claim
And
it
by the
off
way,
of
it is
whatever
good
you're
app
buying on Upside.
because
You pay as
I don't
usual
have to
using a
use it.
debit or credit card. You
It's
follow the steps on the
awesome,
app,
but-
you get that they presented a misleading story of what happened. But bottom line is they're saying, look, our clients, their names have been tarnished. We have a right to respond publicly since Blake Lively made this so public. But again, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds said this is not the way a lawyer should operate. You should not be presenting this this evidence in the public right now. It could inappropriately and materially prejudice a trial. Who's right here?
Well, legally, Lively's right. I mean, since this case now is a federal case, lawyers are bound, quite frankly, to avoid at all.
Okay, I'm going to pause that really quick and actually share my desktop with you to show you these photos. Don't look at those. No, really. Okay, so first here's Blake Lively, and we know she's gorgeous. She's freaking gorgeous. I mean, she's a physically perfect specimen, and we know from the last video of the dance, if you were listening, that she was talking about her spray tan and how it smells. Oh, and that's an important thing from the complaint. She says, I feel awkward. I feel like my spray tan smells bad. And he says, don't you smell good? And that's the point where he actually kind of like moves and sniffs. And she says that was inappropriate. Okay, so I don't know. I think that was probably displaying a romantic gesture because he was in that kind of state of mind for the scene. But you make up your own mind on that. Okay, Blake celebrating the premiere right here. Like, oh shoot, it's really tiny. There we go. Like, oh, woohoo, in front of the sign. Right, and then you have Justin's family in the basement. They're on crates. Like, what is that? Those are wooden crates. Like, do they not have chairs? Like, let's see. They put up some black tarp, and everybody's trying to make the best of it. These like were captured from someone's TikTok, and like they have popcorn. That's nice that they sent them popcorn from the basement. Okay, so I don't know. What do you all think? I mean, I guess it's appropriate to send him to the basement if he's doing all of these nasty things. If it's a popularity battle to banish him from the, I don't know, because it was going to be awkward, I'm guessing, to have her husband Ryan Reynolds there. I'm just going to say it. Okay, let's resume.
These kinds of public
Because
statements, interviews, etc. I think they're going to get their gag, at least on the participants, which would obviously be the lawyers and perhaps Mr. Baldoni.
Let's quickly recap the author of the book, who Justin Baldoni went to and got permission to produce, sided with Blake Lively. And when it came to the premiere, Baldoni and his family showed up and they were like, no, you're not welcome here. You go to the basement. Welcome, Kathy Maniscalco. Stardust says she's Team Blake for sure. Okay, so Stardust says, if it's his production, how the hell did he end up in the freaking basement? Exactly, that's why he's suing. And how did Blake, he's essentially saying that Blake Lively like wrenched control and asserted dominance through her A-list actor husband and her A-list bestie, who kind of pushed him into doing Blake's vision instead of his own vision. Okay, that's the idea. And she's looking bad right now, like really bad. I started out like, yeah, Team Blake. And then I was like, oh, he's kind of, And then I was like, oh, she's a little, right? So I don't know if anybody is likable, but when you do these kind of cases, like it's the worst of our worst moments.
It's not going to stop it. Emissaries,
Welcome,
third parties,
welcome, like and
friends, other
subscribe.
colleagues will bring up the carry the torch in this regard. But I think they
Stardust, it does sound like an ugly public divorce. I'm sorry to pause this, but aren't we getting Amber Heard, Johnny Depp vibes? Just a little bit. I think everybody's like getting those kinds of reminiscence from elements of this case, of one person sort of trying to strong arm the other with social connections and threats of claims that will ruin their reputation. And that's what Baldoni's cross suing for, is defamation, right? Because he's losing sponsors. He lost the support of the author whose film he's producing. He lost control basically of the film. So, what's his recourse? Okay, Stardust, this is not the first time I'm hearing comparisons to Amber Heard. Something about her affect does ring some bells. We can get into analyzing her behavior, and we have some great baselines and really good interviews she did about this, where she's like, one, getting like catty and angry with interviewers asking her about her wardrobe during the film, and thereafter doing like threatening Justin Baldoni not to produce, not to go and do the support and all the things for the film. And then when she did do it, came out very sarcastic: grab your florals, go with your friends, like this is just a super light kind of like, she's really turning up the sarcastic on everybody's so into the wardrobe. So that's all I'm going to talk about. So we see this in the text exchanges between her and Baldoni, where she pitches an idea and he says, thank you, but maybe I'll just leave it as is. I love it, but I'm going to leave it as is. And then he comes over and Taylor Swift is there and Ryan Reynolds is there. And they're like, hey, she really is very talented. And they're, bolstering her up, showing support for their girl. And he's like, thank you. Well, maybe I'll make it a hybrid of her vision and mine. And then later, there's a text where he says, okay, we'll do it your way. And I would have come around to doing that anyway, even if you hadn't pushed me into it with your husband and your bestie. So there's definitely this, like, you never see her saying, I'm very uncomfortable with the way that you walk in on me when I'm naked. You see her saying, oh yeah, just come on in. I'm breastfeeding if you don't mind. And maybe using that later to make an accusation that doesn't really stick.
Got a really good legal argument on trying to stop it now. The problem is it might just be too late. The first shot was fired and then they nuked back. But I got to think that some judge is going to now corral everybody, bring the lawyers in and said, you're done with this. I'm gagging you and I'm gagging the clients.
Maybe it'll all get sorted out at a initial
Welcome,
pre-trial
guys.
conference
Like and
that's
subscribe.
set for
Thanks for
February
being here.
12th, so we'll keep our eyes on that one. But now I want to get into the claims. So I wanted to get your perspective on that. Now I want to get more specific here because we're talking about the law. We have to get a little bit more specific about what the claims are and what the legal challenges are. So if you have one party claiming defamation, you have another party saying sexual harassment. Brian, does this all boil down to, at the end of the day, what actually happened on that movie set and whether or not Baldoni or Lively were acting inappropriately? Was Justin Baldoni sexually harassing Blake Lively? Doesn't it all come down to what can be proven about what happened on that set?
Well, there's no question about that.
whether
but the key to that is, how do you prove it?
and whether or not what happened was appropriate for the circumstances. Remember, she's not a child. She's a seasoned professional actress who has been acting as the intimacy coordinator. And in the allegation, she says there was no intimacy coordinator and kind of basically acts like she's standing up for all the women to protect them. But he had hired an intimacy coordinator and set up an introduction, or attempted to, between texts for Blake and the coordinator. And she said, I'm good, thanks. I'll meet her when I get there. So this was actually not a priority for her. So if we look at these facts, it starts to feel a little odd. Well, Stardust Gem, yes, it does, except we have her complaint, what she's alleging, and then him providing a text, the receipts basically, which directly refute her claim. So what about the text, right?
How do you defend it? And we've already seen, the allegations against him are very serious. They come from a significantly respected member of the.
And we can say, hey, he's slamming her with PR. That's bad. How dare he? But if he's innocent and he didn't do these things, wouldn't that be like a fair reaction to try to defend himself vigorously and aggressively?
National community, an artist with a great reputation. Serious allegations of sexual impropriety today are taken seriously.
Yeah.
The pendulum has swung in that regard, and everybody, when they hear such a claim, are going to look at it. But proof's in the pudding. And that's what I was saying earlier about this. The answer, the new complaint, for lack of a better description, by Baldoni, is filled with text messages, is filled with, correspondences between the two on social media. A lot of stuff that you would never see in a complaint that seems to suggest, if we're really going to look at what happened on the set, we're not just going to take anybody's word for it. And that there may have been a relationship here that went alongside of the acting that led to some of these allegations and led to some of these denials. And I keep thinking, the first thing I thought about, Jess, when I looked at this was Johnny Depp and that trial, and how that took a life of its own.
I just said that.
The problem you have, particularly with celebrities, when they get into these kinds of trials.
Claiming defamation, still using a debit or credit card. You follow the steps on the app, you get paid.
Stardust Gem says, do we have access to any of the texts? Yes. They attach them to the complaints. We do. Okay, we're over here.
Well, you said this about me, and that's untrue. Do we have that here? Do you have the ability to prove that something was said, alleged, that simply can be proven to be false? And that, I think, is going to be a chore here.
That's what I want to get into. So let's start with Blake Lively's sexual harassment claims. Now, we're not going to be able to go through everything, but I'll give everybody a general context of what she's saying. So Blake Lively's lawsuit.
Is she claiming something that he can prove to be false? Because that would really damage her claims, right? And he's trying this case in the public eye. He's trying it in media.
Which, by the way, it was first initially a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, and then expanded into a full lawsuit, a full complaint. She alleges that after raising concerns about Baldoni's inappropriate behavior, alleged inappropriate behavior on set, he retaliated against her by launching a smear campaign against her in the public and in the media. Now, Lively's complaint centers around allegations that Baldoni engaged in unwanted physical contact during intimate scenes, and even that some of this was improvised without the presence of an intimacy coordinator. That's a big point of this. According to her complaint, quote, Mr. Baldoni improvised physical intimacy that had not been rehearsed, choreographed, or discussed with Miss Lively with no intimacy coordinator involved. And Lively says this even further led to him improvising kissing scenes with her. For instance, Mr. Baldoni discreetly bit and sucked on Miss Lively's lower lip during a scene in which he improvised numerous kisses on each take. According to Lively's 17-point list of demands, which she had presented or allegedly presented to Baldoni before filming had resumed during the writer's strike, the presence of an intimacy coordinator was non-negotiable. Now, there's two sides to every story. So this is a he said, she said. Baldoni says this isn't true. He disputes this. He asserted that there was an intimacy coordinator that was hired and that Lively had refused to meet with this intimacy coordinator. And Baldoni's lawsuit includes a text message exchange, or seemingly a text message exchange, where he writes to Lively saying, just hired an intimacy coordinator who I love, will set you up to meet with her next week for intro, which Lively seemingly responds, I feel good. I can meet her when we start. Thank you, though. That message is shown as a screenshot that Baldoni allegedly sent to a producer, where the producer responded with, seemingly suggesting that Blake Lively wasn't going to meet with this coordinator. You'll just have to walk her through what you and intimacy coordinator are thinking, meaning that Baldoni then became the middle person to work out these scenes. And so Baldoni argues that he did, in fact, take Lively through the necessary coordination steps, but Lively later misinterpreted the coordinator's suggestions as these personal sexual discussions. In fact, Baldoni claims he has handwritten notes from his meetings with the coordinator, though they're not included in this lawsuit. So, Brian, to make sense of this, it would essentially be Baldoni saying, look, I wasn't improvising because I'm a creep. I was doing what the coordinator told me to do. Blake Lively chose not to meet with the coordinator.
Okay, no one says Team Justin. No one's Team Justin. That's funny. That's funny, no one. Thank you for being here. Like and subscribe. So we have a Team Justin. By the way, another good one is that in Blake Lively's cease and desist letter to Justin Baldoni, she listed a bunch of rules, and this is in the lawsuit. It's included in the lawsuit as an exhibit. She listed all these rules, and one of them is no more showing pornography on set. And the response, and I don't want to say exactly by who, I think it was one of the other named parties in the production. Their response was, I showed her a video of my wife giving birth to my child. A really intimate thing. This is not porn. What the fuck? Right. So I would think that's a stretch. If that is true, that's a freaking stretch. And that's a mean girl's way to take someone down, to make an accusation like that and take a kernel of truth and think that it's enough to twist it into something that can ruin a man. And if that's the case, good for him for fighting back. Don't take that hit, fight back, right? Don't sit back and just be ruined if it's false accusation. It's okay to say that, but I don't know if the public eye is a place to do it. Right? On the other hand, everybody said that to Alec Baldwin. Look at him.
But Blake Lively has a different, interpretation of this.
Huge.
Is it possible? There's multiple explanations for this, and how do you think it's going to play out?
Yeah, I mean, you've just provided it. I mean, you've got two different statements on what happened. It's interesting to me, when you're a lawyer and someone comes to you, providing you information about a lawsuit, they tell it their way. They describe it their way. And then when you get into the details and you get back with text messages and emails, et cetera, it may not be the way it was described to you.
Oh, that's true.
What you just described to me would be a headache for me if I was.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. People retell their stories and then they just conveniently leave out the part that they would like to forget, that makes them look bad and feel bad. And it doesn't make them bad people, but you sit there and you're like, tell me now. And they've shut a door on their memory to those things. And they're like, no, that wasn't me. That was some other me. And that's more common than one would think. And then the receipts are shown right in their face. And it's like, boom. What the fuck do you do with that?
I was a juror. If I was a juror listening to this, I'd say to myself, the world's coming to an end out there. Why are you bothering me?
He is countering with a...
I can't help but wonder if there wasn't some kind of marriage tension because of the obvious chemistry that we're seeing on screen and how long this relationship lasted and the way it got antagonistic. Here's Ryan Reynolds has been confrontational with this guy. And, that's enough reason for me for some tribal kind of chicks to be like, you're not allowed here. Hey, welcome, Carrie, Nathan Moore. Team Justin all the way, not even close. I'll never watch anything with Blake Lively or Ryan Reynolds. And again, you know what freaking sucks is I really like Ryan Reynolds. But if you think about it, like, he comes off as a really nice guy. And if Blake Lively is really a mean girl, the kind of guy who's going to like really love and support her is going to be like a nice guy. So I kind of don't know if I blame Ryan Reynolds. I don't know enough yet. Can I just reserve that? I never really watched her before anyway, though. I didn't even know about her. It's still, I know.
If you get the cast on your side, and they were with her at the premiere, I believe, I mean, that's significant.
Yeah.
It's a home run. I mean, because in real time, people.
Right. It's significant as well to note that since then, with this whole debacle, the authors have shut down all their social media. It sucks.
They're human beings. They're reacting. She's an actress. She's reacting. People on the staff are watching. Nobody makes these kinds of mistakes once. If this guy did this, then he's done it before. That may play a part in this, whether they've got other instances of misconduct on his part.
That's where he goes in and smells her after she says, "I smell like spray tan." And I honestly, Jen, look at that and say, he's taking this as an opportunity to make a natural chemistry filled romantic gesture that the camera's going to catch. And it works. And there's a few points where she looks awkward, but that can happen in romance. So it's hard to read. And
I think it's going to be real interesting to find out what the other people who aren't pointing the finger have to say, just as you've described.
When we're talking sexual harassment or hostile work environment, I am curious. It doesn't even matter the context or the reasoning. If comments were made or things were shown, that's it. That's the end of the case. Why do I say that? So Lively claims that Baldoni and Jamie Heath, who is one of the executives at this Wayfair company, the production company, they discussed pornography.
There's so many.
She says that made her uncomfortable. Now, Baldoni doesn't deny discussing his past pornography addiction, but he says he only admitted that after she admitted to him that she never watched pornography. And he complimented her on that, told her about his issue in the past. She claims that he actually revealed that fact about her to the rest of the cast and the crew. You could say two sides, but whether they're talking about the context of a scene, and obviously we're not talking about an accounting office. You have people who are getting intimate as part of the scene. But if he's bringing up pornography or talking about his pornography addiction, does a court look at that and say, the fact that he brought that up, he's the director, he's your co-star, you bring that up in a work environment, that's hostile work environment. That's a clear sexual harassment claim. What do you think?
All right. Does this change anything for you guys? Okay. I think to just merely mention, it depends on the context. This doesn't occur in a vacuum. To just merely mention, but depending, I could see this making someone uncomfortable. And saying, I've never watched it. Oh, come on, really? That's a way to just shut down the topic. I wouldn't know. She's an actress in Hollywood. Don't even get me started. Yes, she has. Don't sue me. Don't sue me.
Well, there's no question. If they are the facts, then you are 100% right. There are things that you simply do not do, and you just described one of them. The question will be here, though. What's the truthful chronology of events? If you and I are close friends, and we also happen to be in a film together, and we're talking about everything under the sun before the lights go on,
right?
That's one thing. But if you're in the
That's what I was saying. We're joking around earlier at an office, helping my friend put like lidocaine patches on, and things like that. And we're joking about, see, there can be reasonable context for behaviors one would otherwise describe as outrageous. Like, it's easy to make a single statement, but then to say, well, okay, but what's the rest of the sentence? And it does seem like a lot of Blake Lively's accusations and claims are easily addressed in the complaint that Baldoni makes.
That Lively just.
I'm looking, by the way, right now at the text. I just don't know if we're going to get through them today. Maybe we'll start a few of them. I'm looking through them right now because they're mixed into the complaint. It's over 100 pages, but there's emails pasted in. There's text. Like, they dropped all the goods. They spent all the receipts. But I think the key in this is not looking at either side as if it's a objective version of reality. The receipts each side brings just shows one facet that a light was shining on at that moment.
Describes in her lawsuit, where he is directing this, where he is in the workplace, bringing up
appropriate
graphic tendencies, his issues regarding sex, making sexual overtures of any kind. He's in a world of hurt.
There's also the allegation, it was inappropriate.
Never a good idea.
For Jamie Heath to show Blake Lively this video, or attempt to show her this video of his wife giving birth, like a natural birth, because it related to the context of a scene. I agree with you. I think that could be problematic for Baldoni. But here's the...
I don't know about that. If you ask someone if they want to see the birth of your child, I think it's a stretch and a half to call that pornographic. I just do. I don't, especially if it relates to the scene. Like, it's a big stretch. It's a really big stretch. I don't know. These guys were working together for 2 years. Were they friends? Was the conversation suggesting that she might be open to the offer? Was it on point? This is for me. I have to know more. It's just
a larger question, right? There are more things here, right? Like the he said, she said. So, for example, she claims he was fat shaming her. He says, I wasn't.
This one's fun.
I was genuinely concerned about her weight because in a scene, I have to lift her up. I have back issues.
Okay, so they were discussing a scene where he would be picking her up, and apparently in the context of this, he asked her what she weighed, and he had a conversation with her personal trainer about her weight and his back. I think this hurt her feelings. No one says, Blake has a horrible reputation. Justin, up until now, has a clean image of it being a nice guy. I won't believe her just because she is a woman. Justin has receipts, texts, and unedited images. Lively has nothing. So far, it's definitely looking that way, and I appreciate that perspective. Thank you for sharing. Stardust says it really sounds like they don't have good chemistry. Yeah, but look on camera. They look like they're about to, fudge. Hey, Stardust says, I agree, but that's if he's telling the truth. I don't believe she would call birthing porn. Yeah, I don't know. I think she did. I think it was in the complaint. I think she did. We'll look at it. She's perfect. He's a jerk. I don't know. That's never the case. That was kind of the point of the topic. And it's fun to explore kind of where we start and where we end. Do you start on a team? If so, why? Because you like them? Okay, now is there any kind of evidence? And does that evidence paint a picture of what you want to see, or what they want you to see, or what's really happening? Or my throat is giving out, so it might be time to end. I'm afraid to start reading text to you, but I guess I can. Yeah, feels like, I don't know. Okay, I'll show you some screenshots. Just for a minute, we'll look at a little bit. We will look at Baldoni's suit, which came after Lively. Can you guys see my screen? Are we good? Are you on my window? Go back to check. You are. Okay. Okay, so he's giving us texts in here, emails. These are with the author. It's like you can see there's I mean, it's very long. Okay, so they start out and they seem to have some, like, he's pointing out that they were making silly jokes together on text. And he says, "Thank you for your collaboration. I'm really proud of what we're doing." And she says she loves it. And he says, it's the other way around. He says, "I like sentimental Blake." And she says, "Never met her." He says, "I also like asshole Blake. Don't worry." Okay, night. "I've met her," she says. "So have my suppositories. Good night." He laughs. Okay. Here's the birthing thing. Oh, so here he's asserting that she starts trying to control the set, and that's what this is really about. Ignoring his vision. That's what this is expository on. Okay. Let's see, what is he saying this is? Baldoni was not just dealing with Lively, he was also facing Lively's dragons, two of the most influential and wealthy celebrities in the world who are not afraid to make things very difficult for her. Dragons. Okay, let's go back up. 42. Later, Baldoni felt obligated to text Lively to say that he had liked her pages and hadn't needed Reynolds and her mega celebrity friend to pressure him. Lively responded that the two were her dragons. Lively went on to say, quote, "They, Reynolds and the mega celebrity friend, also know I'm not always good at making sure I am seen and utilized for fear of threatening egos or fear of affecting the ease of the process. They don't give a shit about that. And because of that, everyone listens to them with immense respect and enthusiasm. So I guess I have to stop worrying about people liking me. I don't know," emoji. So he's saying that the message was, you're not only dealing with me not caring what you think anymore, you're dealing with Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift. So he wrote to her. Basically, she rewrote a scene that one we talked about earlier. That's when Reynolds and Taylor were like, she's really smart. Like, these pages really work, which I don't think is crossing any line at all. And then he wrote to her, "Was working on the rooftop scene. I really love what you did. It really does help a lot. Makes so much more fun and interesting. And I would have felt that way without Ryan and Taylor. You really are a talent across the board. Really excited and grateful to do this together." What I'm seeing here is him handling her with kid gloves and getting irritated with it. Like a dude trying to handle a very emotional woman who has a fragile sense of self that she's trying to assert. And probably there's some kind of issue in her marriage from the filming of this and the tension at home. And I've been in jobs where you bring it home, and then, there's a lot of people there who say, "Oh, this affects my relationship." So she writes back. I don't know if you guys can see this well, but "That's very much appreciated and means a lot. I'm deeply inspired by the film we're going to make outside of the success of this book. We have such an opportunity to not only surprise people who love the book, but reach an even bigger audience by making an undeniably dynamic and also commercial film. The moment that excited me the most the other day was when you said, 'You're not funny. You are going to kill that rooftop scene.' You know it, I'm sure. Even though it was said in a playful self-deprecation that we all participate in, it made me think of the process as a whole. Please know I trust that on the day you've got me, and I hope that you trust that I've got you if you want." What? "We're in this together, and we're two of the most determined people I know. We also have very high bars set for ourselves. To collaborate with that type of partner is a gift that neither of us will squander, because we both care too much about the result and also the experience. I have no motives except for you to win. As a director, as an actor, as a studio, as a writer, if you win, I win. If you win, our movie wins. We are aligned, and I will bring everything I have to this. All right, you guys. Let's see if I can figure out how to stop sharing the screen. That's all I got. My voice is gone. That's all I got. That's all he's got. He's falling asleep. All right. No one says Blake is perfect. A perfect narcissist. She actually thinks she is a Khaleesi. Oh my God, I see it. I hate to say it, but I see it. I do. The Khaleesi vibe. I get it. Tipton says I back Ryan Reynolds any day. I mean, I can't help it. I like Deadpool. I love it. I love his movies. But come on, does being with an asshole make you an asshole? Then we'd all, everybody, you know, I don't know. Okay. Green is my, oh, thank you. Thank you. Enliven my plaid. Now I want to beat each other. So I'm going to leave it on this. Does it sound like she's suggesting some kind of intimacy beyond professional? So I don't think that's really a letter I'd write to my boss about a case. It's just not. There's a vibe there. Yes? No? I'm full of shit. Night night. No. Okay. This is no. But she's going to have to double down on no. Well, maybe. But how would you feel if you were her husband? Unless you helped her write it. I don't know. All right. I think he did, by the way. I think it came out that he wrote the rooftop scene. So maybe Blake's perfect. I don't know. Or maybe she's a manipulative, maniacal. You know what they say. No one says maybe Lively was into Justin and he rejected her. We'll find out because they seem determined to play this out in the public eye. But right now, Lively's asking for a gag order from Baldoni to stop releasing all the receipts. She might get it because, of course, the case is federal now. She filed in, I think she filed in federal. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's federal. Swift is part of it. Hey, don't touch my Swift. Yeah, I know. And, if he rubbed them all wrong, and they're all people I typically like, I don't know, maybe there's something to that. However, he's asserting that he's being kind of bullied by the cool kids. Is it possible? All right, good night, guys. Stay salty. Love ya. He'll bite you. Bye.